So everybody, we are over in with Dina Wakley and Ranger, and these are some of the fun things that she has. This is a Creativation 2017. So here are some of her acrylic paints that are up here. Beautiful things. Some of her media tools using her things down here. Fine tip applicators. Here's some of her amazing stamps and some of her stencils. So gorgeous. Look at how beautiful all these lines are.
Hi, I'm Dina Wakley, and I'm excited to show you my new media journal. What's cool about this journal is that it doesn't have just one kind of paper in there. There's actually 4 different substrates that are bound into signatures in this journal. So you can work on the watercolor.
There's burlap in there.
You can work on a thin canvas, and look, I've been drawing on it with the new Scribble sticks.
Oh,
it
beautiful.
rocks the Casbah.
Yes.
And then there's, isn't that cool?
Yes.
And there's also a craft, and the craft is heavy.
Oh, I love craft paper.
You gotta fondle it.
Oh yes, nice and
It's
thick.
really thick. So it'll reinvigorate your journaling, and it'll push you creatively, and it's just cool and fun.
Yeah, sometimes you get a little bored just doing on the same surface over and over. You want to kind of play and yeah.
And I've been sick this whole show.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Everybody that comes to hear me is like, you poor girl, I have a year's supply of cough drops.
Well, I think your voice sounded better now than it did 3 days ago because you had, you were bad that day.
I have a year's supply of cough drops, but also an awesome journal. So
yes.
I hope you guys like it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. So over here, this is some of the Dina Wakley heavy butter acrylic paints. Beautiful colors, all these amazing things. We went over and played with these with gel press. So you're gonna see a video about that. Down here are some of her other media paints. Here's some of her other acrylic paints, and look, those beautiful things down here. So there's a tote bag that she has, some of her canvas boards. Here's some of her brushes. Comb squares, paint comb squares, and then we just talked about her journals. So these are some of the pieces. So look at all the 4 different types of papers that are inside the journal she just talked about. Absolutely beautiful. And then she has these brand new Scribble sticks, and they remind me a little bit of kind of like the crayons, but they're her own thing, so it's really fun. And then she's got a mixed media palette, so beautiful. And then she's got some mica spray, so she really has a little kind of finger in a lot of different things. So hey everybody, you just got finished watching Dina Wakley, and we were playing with a bunch of her mixed media stuff, and one of the things that she just launched was these Scribble sticks. So at the show, we actually had all the range of the Scribble sticks out, one of every color, and you could test it, and then she had some water that was out. So we're going to play with that, and a couple of things I wanted to show you. One of the things that she's mentioned about her Scribble sticks, and she didn't really get to talk too much because if you notice, she kind of had a hoarse voice, so I've kind of was listening in on when she was talking with some other people, but I didn't get it on tape. So one of the things she mentioned is that this is pretty heavy. Basically, this is like having paint, but in a stick form. It's like they took the liquid out of it, basically. It's also not a wax, and so it's basically just a pure pigment that's in a stick form. We're going to compare them against some of the other sticks, and we'll talk about that in a minute. There is only 12 colors right now, but they do range from, obviously you can see magenta, ruby, tangerine, lemon, lime, turquoise, sky, night, blackberry, umber, black, and white. So it's a nice range. You can blend them. You can do some other things. I was only able to bring one home with me to test and to compare. And it was just because at the very end of the show, I asked if I could take one. She's like, yeah, sure, have one. It wasn't Dana, it was somebody else because she'd already left. But what we're going to do is we're going to test how they react doing a couple of different things that she specifically uses them for. And then we're going to compare them against 2 other what I call similar type products. The first thing she said is that once you put it down, you can do it dry. And if you rub, it doesn't come off. Now, what I have found, and these have been sitting for a month, so they've had plenty of time to dry. They've been sitting on my desk. There's nothing happening. And I just kind of went through, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but right there with the red, it smudged a tiny, tiny bit. Not a ton, believe me. It's not like I took my finger, went and it went all the way over the place, but I was rubbing pretty hard and I did get it to smear a tiny bit. So just as a heads up, it's not completely smear proof, but because it didn't have wax in it, I think my husband's phone just went ding. Because it doesn't have wax in it, it's not going to overly smear because your finger's not reactivating and heating it up. So that's kind of a cool thing. All right, so I just have a basic water brush, and I do have a water bottle. And the other thing you can do is you can kind of take it, and I wanted to show you and compare. Even after a month, this can reactivate. So it does not have a set drying time, quote unquote. So if you started a project, stepped away from it, and were like, oh man, I really wish I could have gone back and blended that, you still can. Some people may like that and some people may not. And look, it is blending. See right here, you can blend them together. That's kind of cool. I can blend these two together and get kind of a cool, neat color. So they are blending really well. See in here, and this is just plain old water, nothing fancy. So they are water soluble, and look, these blend together right here. So that's kind of fun. You can use them wet, you can use them dry, and I'm going to show you a few others here in a minute, but I just wanted to, oops. If you do not want them to blend, you just need to make sure that you go and clean your brush off. And you could easily use a regular brush and just dip it in water that's in a cup. I just found the paint bend to be easy because I don't have to keep cleaning my brush too much, and I can reactivate it with the water by squeezing it. And I will say the darker colors, I'm kind of liking a little bit better than the lighter colors. It's almost like it's really reactivating that pigment a lot better. And some people are like, well, why do you need white? Well, because not every project you do is going to be on a white surface. So here it is on black. It's kind of pooling up, and maybe it's because of the type of ink that was used on here. But I bet if you went over like on a black cardstock, I bet it would work a whole lot better. It's just not functioning too well when they printed it. This is probably laser paper and a laser printer, but the other ones blended really well. And I don't have another white to show you how that works. These are the tips that she said. This is from Dina Wakley. When I watched another one of her demos, I was kind of off to the side. She said this is some of the things that she likes to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare the techniques she likes to use with the Scribbles versus two other companies that I have. So this guy right here, and this is a wax pastel. So it is different because it is wax, and she says hers has no wax in it at all. But it's the closest thing I had. I do not have the wax crayons from Ranger. It's a completely something I just do not have, but I do have the gelatos, which again to me are a little bit different, again because they're very, very what I would call waxy. So when you put this, it comes off on your hand. It reminds me of like putting on lipstick. You know, even the tube reminds me of lipstick. This one comes off on your hand. This is not activating. So there's a little bit of a difference already. You can see that. But do they do the same thing, or are they a little bit different? Dina said that you could go through, and it even has her little name on there, right there. You could do it light. So here I am coloring lightly, but I can also go in and color really dark. And so you can actually just color with these if you wanted to. You could go in and you could do light, you could do dark shading. You know, you can act as if this is a regular old crayon, but it's not a crayon. A pigment stick is the best way to describe it. So you can do some shading. Let's try the next guy. And for all of these, I'm going to do the same order. This is the Reeves Wax Pastel, and there's a series of colors. This is actually meant to be kind of used for kids, but why can't we use the same stuff kids use? Okay, I'm going to go light, and then I'm going to go dark. And look, it already broke. Got to be careful. So this one's a lot sturdier because the amount of wax in here is really having a hard time. So I'm going to use the back side because I just don't want to break that. So I can go light and dark, and I can't really see a difference in the shading. There's no, like this one, I can tell that there's a light. Oops, you can't really see that. Do you see the light and the dark? Oops. This one just looks the same. So what about the gelatos? Can I get a light and a dark out of a gelato? So I'm going light and dark. I don't really get the coloring shading, quote unquote, that I do with the Scribble stick. And again, this is the only things I have in my supplies of stuff that can compare to that. So there it is. Now, here's the other thing. She says hers really don't smear, and truly, they don't do that bad of a job. I mean, not too bad. Here, I'm pushing it all over the place. So I'm going to show you. You can really see how much it's kind of pushed and smeared. And then the gelato, let me get a clean finger. And there it is again. So it pushed the pigment all around. Okay. The next one you can do is I'm going to color. And I'm going to color. I tried to pick a similar color so we would know what it was looking like. And color. And you saw me do this over here. We're going to do the same idea. This time I'm actually going to spray. And that's kind of a neat effect. You can already see it's activating and it's kind of pooling the water. And now we're just going to take, and you know this blends and it acts like a watercolor, and you can go in and you can watercolor stuff. And this is just a stamp. This is not anything fancy. All I've done is I've stamped and I've put this on a watercolor paper tag. And I just used the detail ink from Bruce Monroe to kind of get the stamp going. Over here, it's doing the exact same thing. No difference. This is a little bit more of an intense color, but same idea. And this is doing the same thing again. Again, this has got a little bit more of an intense color. With this though, I feel like I can get some lighter sections. Like I can get some light colors, or I can really get dark colors by pulling from light and dark. I can't do it dry, but I can get light and dark when it's wet. So that's kind of fun. I don't know if I can get a little bit of light, but it's not pulling a very good light color for the medium one, for the Reeves. And for this one, yeah, I can kind of get a light color. There seems to be more of a lighter or a darker. If I really, got the pigment on here hard, but I can get some lighter colors. There's some difference in shading. So far, all three of these do the beautifully wet, activated with wet. Okay, next one. Okay, next one. Next one, she said, is you can take your water pen or a pen, and I'm going to use the end, and you can actually activate it by pulling the pigment off of the stick itself. And then you can brush, and there it is. So you don't want to scribble on your paper. You just want to go in, and I just want to fine tip, add some very specific pigment and color to certain sections. I don't have to scribble on the paper first. I wonder if that's where she got the word scribble sticks. Ha. And I can go in and I actually can get some light and dark shading depending on how much I activate it with my brush. And I really like the water pen for this. This one's kind of cool. I don't have to keep re-dipping into a paint, and I can get a very solid color. And look, you can get different kind of, if I add more water to my pen, I can get it lighter, and I can also kind of tap it and make it even lighter, so I don't have to go super intense on dark. So that's kind of cool. So, and just make sure you kind of dry your stick again is my guess. Okay, let's try the Reeves, see if that works. Get my water pen, still have a decent amount of water in here. Let's try and pull the color off of here, and nope, not getting it. See, it's like it probably is not pulling anything. What I'm getting is a light tone. It's probably still left from the paintbrush. I can't pull anything off of this. It's not doing it. It's not transferring color. Gelato. I'm assuming the Gelato would do this. And yeah, I can pull it from the Gelato. So that's working just great. And I can do a light and a dark, I think. I can kind of add more water and get a little bit of a lighter tone, a little bit more of an intense tone by not adding the water. This one definitely has a little bit more of a vibrant, and it could just be the tone of the color I'm using here too. I don't get as much of an active tone with it. So that's kind of cool. So the Scribble sticks and the Gelatos did the direct from the stick itself, so I can directly paint versus having to put it on the paper and then watercolor. So you can get some direct color with that. So that's pretty fun. All right, the next one is actually using it to stamp. So instead of using an ink to stamp with, you can actually use the Scribble stick. And she said what you're going to do is you spray your stamp with a little bit of water, you take your Scribble stick, and I'm just going to use the back side. And because you have to make sure it's wet and you can stamp. And this was really wet, so let's try a second generation here. And that's pretty cool. It's not going to be a clean, crisp, clear stamp like these ones. It's more of a muddied stamp. So this is a very detailed stamp. It's probably not the best thing to use. Words would not be, but simple lines, swirls, feathers, things like that would probably look cool. You can see some detail. There's something going on here. And she said if you keep spraying it, even after one application, you can get a whole bunch. It looks like it's getting a little muddy to me. She had some samples up there that were really cool, and you never know. Okay, so let's try this. I'm going to use the, see, this guy's already bugging me. It broke. Is I'm going to try and transfer. I'm thinking no, because it's wax. It's probably not going to work, but I'm going to try. It does activate with water, so you never know. A little bit. Again, it's just really muddied. There's really no... I kind of wiped it off, but it's something. It's a similar idea. I think it's kind of the same concept. And then let's try the gelato. I think this one might be a little messy. So I'm not going to push too hard with the gelato. I'm just going to lightly go over the stamp with the gelato. And because this one's more of a wet ink, wet pigment, I don't think I really have to do much to activate it. Now let's see if I activate with water. Because that was dry, so this is now activated. Ooh, that actually worked really well. So you can do that with gelatos too. It's kind of fun. So here's the Scribble sticks right here. Here's the Reeves wax crayon, and here's the gelatos. Gelatos, I think in this particular, and maybe I just need to practice a little more with Scribble sticks because mine don't look like what hers did, and she's been playing for a while. But even the dry gelatos look kind of cool. But this one looks fun too, and I bet I could get a second generation on that. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a really neat effect here. I'm liking that. I've never thought to use my gelatos with stamping before. It's kind of neat. And I bet you could really kind of keep playing with it. Okay, so that's all the stuff that you can use with it being like on paper, directly on paper. But one of the other things that she had mentioned that she said was fantastic was it going on acrylic paint. She says she has the hardest time trying to find something that will go on acrylic paint that will stay and do what it needs to do if she wants to write or color or draw or things. So this is just an acrylic paint that I've let dry for a while. And it's now dry, and it's just like I said on watercolor. I blended a couple of different because I wanted you to see when I did just the regular vanilla on here, you couldn't tell it was paint, so I added a little bit of yellow just so you could see the color difference. So what she was doing is her demo was just going in and she was drawing, and it was sticking, and it was having no problem going on here. She also said you could take your water brush and you could pull color, so you could add a little bit of watercolor, which I thought was kind of fun. And so you can color or you can leave it dry. And then she said, and if you really don't like it, just wipe it off, which it really almost does. There's a tiny bit of an imprint on there left behind, but it does kind of wipe off. She goes, because it's not a wax, it just, the paint, because it has kind of a plasticky resist in a way to it, which is why most other things don't stick to it, is what she said. That's why it wipes off. Okay, so let's try the crayon. See, the crayon's going on. So this is the wax crayon. It's working just fine. Let's try and let's clean this off. Yeah, it's making it water soluble. It's not really reactivating the color underneath. It's doing what hers did, which is kind of fun. She definitely has more of an outline to hers. This one really blended it a whole lot more. Now let's see if it wipes off. Yep, comes clean off, just like the other one did. There's no difference there. This one actually leaves a little less of a residue. Now let's try the gelato. So same idea. Yeah, the gelato definitely, you can't get as much of a clean, crisp image because of it doesn't have a point to it. I'm guessing you can sharpen this thing too. But you can color on it. I just can't do, you know, definite shapes. Like I couldn't get a specific circle. I can turn this into a circle by wetting it, but does it come off now? No, so this one smears. I can't get a clean, it doesn't remove. So this is really kind of a blend between these two things. This can do what both of these can do, but some of what either of these can do, these can do a little bit of what this can do. So this is kind of an all-in-one, it looks like. It's not the end-all be-all. There is some things that this is very good at, but there's some things that this can't do that this can. It's kind of a mix, but I like the fact that you can wipe it off in case you make a boo-boo. That's kind of fun. I appreciate that because I make mistakes, but sometimes you just kind of roll with it and go with it. So these are all the cool techniques that I saw her doing while we were there at the show at Creativation. Some of her stamping techniques, the watercoloring with directly from the pen itself, the, you know, coloring on it and then smearing it, or just doing a dry color or adding it to paint. She also said that these can go on more than just cardstock. It could work on canvas and burlap and all kinds of things. And she has that mixed media book that you guys saw where it had all the different types of papers inside the book. She was using her Scribble sticks all through that. So as she was flipping through the pages, she had one that was done. She was using this on that as well. I just don't have those pieces here with me, but if it works on this, it's going to work on that just the same way. So thanks for stopping by and checking out all the fun things that you can do with the new Scribble sticks and how they compare versus a wax pen or wax pastel and the Gelatos. So thanks so much. Please subscribe. Bye-bye.